The boy in the mirror was a little fat, with shaggy brown blonde hair, but not bad. Daniel Sandler. The boy opened and closed his mouth and pronounced the name a little jerky, but the tone was familiar and standard Brooklyn English. Yes, this is New York. The shadow cast by the abandoned mine, the high sky in Shaanxi, the shaking camera, Jia Zhang's exclamation, became distant and fragmented under the rampage of Daniel's memory. Thanks Giuliani, I'm back safely. David came in with 2 large plastic bags. The hulas bread has been bought by those slackers. Daniel, your head is still climaxing, is it? Yes, there is still a little aftertaste. Daniel took the bag, but I think I should be able to go to work tomorrow. I hope my look of spring won't scare Claire. David is his roommate, a black man, a delivery worker at a hot dog shop. A few days ago, Daniel was filled with a van filled with female models, of course, plastic, and had a close contact, which made him so far, and it was all under David's care, but the poor savings and low income of the two obviously did not allow him continue to rest. I really hope to be a millionaire before the new millennium. David handed over a bagel. Daniel frowned. The sweetness of the rich corn syrup stimulated his sense of smell, which made him hesitate a little before taking a sip. It's a big challenge. It is now December 1998, and the new century is just 1 year away. Oh, it's too sweet. David glanced at him suspiciously. Hulas bread is sweeter than this. Take it as if I have a sweet intolerance. Please buy the tasteless ones next time. Those that grow corn are really productive. Daniel put down the bagels. What happened to the hot dog shop today? You came back earlier than usual. Phew. Oh, Claire is so excited today as if she's on a drug, and New York street food is going to visit his hot dog shop tomorrow. Oh yes, he also said that if you still have your head and you still reluctant to part with his work, tomorrow gotta go to work. You know, you're the best thing in his hot dog shop, more popular with women than his hot dogs. David used the accent on his hot dog, with a knowing smile on his face. Even though Daniel is a little fat, the mixed blood of the Three Kingdoms still gives him a coveted handsome face. The 19-year-old boy is full of youth, and Claire's hot dog shop has become the favorite hot dog shop for the housewives of East Flabash. Not just because of his ancestral recipe for spicy meat sauce. It is worth mentioning that Daniel's grandmother is a Chinese who came to the United States during the war years and spent her life with an American Portuguese bank clerk. They are a typical couple, but it is a pity that their only daughter became an unwed mother, and deeply in love with Daniel died when he was in middle school. This kind of life experience is not bleak in New York. At least Daniel can know from his mother's mouth that he has mixed blood from the Three Kingdoms. He is much luckier than those poor who don't even know their birthdays. On a clear morning in New York, Daniel and David drove to work at Claire's hot dog shop 15 minutes away in a crumbling Ford that David's mother had left for him. Hey Daniel, laziness is the root of all evil, you should have come to work long ago. Claire is a bald old man who runs this hot dog shop with a history of more than 30 years, which makes him a senior in Jewish living. The place has an apartment of its own. Daniel put on his stupid chef hat. The truck is the root of all evil. If he doesn't hit me, I don't have to ask for leave at all. I think Dave already told you that New York street food is coming to interview us today, and people all over New York State will know about Claire's hot dog, and we're going to be famous in New York for our chili sausages. Hey, get excited mate. I'd be very excited if my daily salary could be increased by $10, Claire. Oh, let's talk about New York street food. Daniel rolled his eyes. The job at the hot dog shop is so boring, and Daniel has to make excuses with the surprised housewives. Oh yes, Mrs. Pete, my head doesn't hurt anymore. Oh, thank you so much for your concern, Mrs. Dawson. And so on. At 2:10 in the afternoon, the host and cameraman of New York Street Food were late. Under Claire's passionate eyes, Daniel had to cooperate with the overly fat host's meat jokes. Claire's hot dog shop's red sausages with spicy meat sauce are really delicious, especially the little red sausages from this handsome guy. Daniel's face blushed, so everyone laughed. The show will be broadcast at 10 o'clock tomorrow night, and Claire requires all employees to watch it. After finishing his day's work, Daniel sat in David's co-pilot and looked at the street lights on both sides of Flaybash Avenue, slightly lost. Although everything is normal, from an independent film actor who is not popular with the authorities to a hot dog shop master in New York, from a pure Chinese with 18 generations of ancestors to only a quarter of Chinese descent, who seems to have nothing to do with China Americans, everything will take time to smooth out. At least it's still on Earth. What are you muttering about? David is an enthusiastic black guy, even if the Ford car clatters, it can't stop his courage to find a girl. David, I want to go to California, I mean Hollywood. The sharp breaking sound startled Daniel. Oh, Danny, you're finally enlightened. David looked even more excited than himself. You know what? Jason's girlfriend's sister's classmate, a malnourished girl, is said to be just a kid in Hollywood. You can earn hundreds of thousands of dollars every year. Look at you. You have a natural star face, but you waste your time in a hot dog shop. It's a waste. You reading www.yuyuganshu.com. Jason is a friend of the older brother of David's primary school classmate. My God, am I going to be a friend of a big star soon? Daniel had a good reputation in the Chinese independent film industry in his last life, and even won several titles of international movie stars, but the people who hang out in underground movies all day are far from big stars. Coming to the United States, the only thing that can be comforted is probably the unparalleled freedom in the film career. Therefore, Daniel hardly needs to think much to know where his goals are. Hollywood. But David's attitude made him happy both physically and mentally. In his last life, when he was determined to star in an independent film about same-sex love after graduating from the Department of Fine Arts and Painting at the Central Academy of Fine Arts, all the people around him tried to be his resistance. This is the difference. Some people are easy to navigate in the intertwined relationship network, while others yearn for freedom and wanton. Life is not so solemn, and there is no need to regard every choice as the end of the world. David's excitement continued until the two lay down in the only room. Danny, when are you going to go to California? After Christmas, make some money from Claire, and I can't starve to death until I get a job at a new hot dog shop in Los Angeles. Yes, Danny. Did I tell you that my mother used to be a little actress? Of course, not very famous. No, I haven't heard of it. Let me tell you. New York street food really made Claire's hot dog shop more widely known, and Daniel's arms are like lead water at the end of each day. Claire finally agreed to give him a daily salary of $75, which was mainly due to the fact that Claire's hot dog sausage, together with Daniel, became the signature of this hot dog shop. Daniel began to plan to leave Brooklyn. In fact, he also wanted to go to Warner or Universal's New York headquarters to try his luck, but those burly black security guards still let him give up this idea. It might be more appropriate to go to Beverly Hills. There are movies negotiated every day, ranging from tens of thousands of dollars to hundreds of millions. The Legend of Titanic, which invested more than 200 million yuan, was staged last year. Although Leonardo did not get the Oscar nomination like the silly girl Kate Winslet, he has become a Hollywood star. The most enviable young actor, because he has almost gained the love and attention of the whole world, and then quickly promoted to the Super A level and the 20 million club. As Daniel struggled to save $2,000 and a plane ticket to Los Angeles, Brian Robbins and Michael Tollin were chatting in their apartment on Manhattan's Upper West Side across the river from Brooklyn. They were busy working on a new movie about a high school football team, and the script was already written, not surprising, but still worth doing. The protagonists have already locked on James Van de Beek. This handsome guy from Connecticut has just gained a lot of popularity in the TV series. At this time, he was invited to star in a campus movie. The two sides hit it off. The other leading role is played by Paul Walker, whose charming blue eyes fit the role of the star quarterback in the movie. The cold-blooded football coach and the biggest villain in the movie is played by Jon Voight, whose daughter, Angelina Jolie, got a nomination at this year's Golden Globes. The Hollywood circle sometimes doesn't seem big. There are also some supporting roles, they are not in a hurry, there are many candidates. The TV broadcast is a local New York program. They find well-known food stores from corners and corners, and then recommend them to New Yorkers and tourists. Brian, who was already a little hungry, caught a glimpse of the tempting hot dog on the TV. The spicy meat sauce was still exuding an intoxicating aroma across the TV screen. The one who was making it was a beautiful, fat man. Another Billy. Brian muttered. In his new movie, there is a fat character who is the defender of the attacking team, and is a very important supporting role. But they don't plan to hire a professional actor. The first one is that the budget is limited, even if it is only $50,000, he is not willing, so he can only find a rookie who has just entered the industry or a fat man with a Hollywood dream. But in the process of casting, he found that the obesity rate of American teenagers is too high. 1 Billy, 2 Billis. Both Billis. What? Michael looked up from the script. Anyway, he's a nice Billy, and he doesn't seem to be very fat. Of course Daniel didn't notice that. Brian and Michael also quickly went to Los Angeles to finalize the specifics of the filming. Such short-lived friendships happen every day, but they are meaningless. After being busy with the Christmas holiday, Claire is going to give his employees a holiday to make up for the overtime and heavy workload during the Christmas holiday, but Daniel directly resigned. He did not say that he wanted to go to Hollywood, but firmly stated that he was pursuing a career in Hollywood. Live a new life instead of being a hot dog chef. Claire was shocked, it had a bad effect on his hot dog shop, but there was nothing he could do, Daniel was always free. I thought Claire would eat me. Daniel packed his little luggage and sat on the floor chatting with David. His plane was at 1 p.m. David rummaged through the bottom of the drawer on the bedside table, and replied, "He does want to eat you, but it's a pity that Lincoln rescued the slave, and he couldn't do anything. This is for you." What? Daniel took the envelope handed over, farewell speech. Oh, my God! The envelope contained $2,000. Danny, this is the legacy my mother left me, of course not all, but I think she must be very willing that I give these to you, a dream chaser who is about to go to Hollywood. Oh, David! David smacked Daniel on the shoulder, don't be like a bitch, have a good time in Hollywood, one day when I see you in the cinema, I can show off to others, hey, this person used to be my roommate, had cheap, discounted bread with me. Daniel didn't refuse any more, he hugged David, man, wait, you will have a superstar friend. The winter sun outside the window was very warm, which made Daniel recall this morning countless times, and he always felt full of emotion and emotion. David drives Daniel to the airport in his old Ford. Every time Daniel looked back, he could always see David waving his hands, and his face was full of smiles. It all changed when Daniel landed in Los Angeles, where he had no friends and no place to stay. He had to rent a house and find a job. He doesn't have enough savings to keep him waiting for roles full-time, and now has to settle down in Los Angeles before taking care of himself. Yes, thank God, he looks pretty good, but he's a little fatter and has very little taste in clothing. So he has to lose weight first, then exercise, and finally buy himself some clothes. After all this is done, he can only imagine that he can impress the agent of a certain agency. Reading www.yuyugonshu.com. There are not a few Hollywood drifters like Daniel. There are some houses rented to them in a few blocks not far from Hollywood, 1 bedroom and 1 living room, usually for a short period of time. Some people will move out when they get the chance, others then you give up halfway and cannot afford the high cost of time and money. He quickly rented a house for $500 a month, which is a fair price. In addition, he is very grateful to Claire, and on the third day in Los Angeles, he found a new hot dog shop. The main egg yolk frankfurters and Claire's hot dog shop are slightly different, but the differences are limited. I got a job at a hot dog shop, making egg yolk frankfurters. It's super close to Hollywood. Daniel called David from the rental house. David was chewing his bread. 6 women asked you today? God, Claire is so pitiful, I suspect those housewives will never come again. How is this possible? Forget it, it won't go out of business anyway. Are there many talent scouts in Hollywood who wander the streets every day? Have you ever encountered one? Daniel touched his forehead. Hollywood 60 years ago? I haven't seen the scouts, but the cheese shop, Western restaurant, and dessert house are all young and beautiful girls. It's really competitive, but, do those pretty girls need a gentle black boy to soothe their lonely souls? David, listen to me, pay attention to your right hand, okay? A week later, when Daniel came back from get off work at the hot dog shop, it was past 9 o'clock in the evening. David's 6th call was finally picked up. Hey, Danny, I almost blew up your phone. David complained hastily. According to David, a gentleman went to Claire's hot dog shop to find Daniel today, and he claimed to be a film director who had a role in his new movie and could give Daniel a chance to audition. Are you sure that's not a liar? It's really hard for Daniel to believe that he is so lucky, but if you always hold such a mentality, 9 out of 10 opportunities in Hollywood have nothing to do with you. Those actors who have become famous always have various debut stories to tell the public. Each one is a godsend. You can't say that everyone is a who is lying and contrived. Hollywood itself is a land of opportunity. Oh, no, I mean, did he leave you contact information? Of course, remember. David reported a series of numbers. His name is Brian, Mr. Robbins. Okay, thank you David, I will contact him immediately, and I will tell you when I have news. Brian Robbins. Daniel has been thinking about it for a long time, but he doesn't remember that there is such a person among the famous Hollywood directors in the future. Of course, this is normal, and potential stocks are not so easy to meet. He quickly decided to give Brian a call. If it was an opportunity, it would be a thunderstorm if he didn't seize it. 2 days ago, Brian, who went to New York to communicate with the screenwriter about the script, got bad news in his Manhattan apartment. The actor they chose to play Billy Bob was a high school student who came to New York from Texas. The teenager with terrible grades was ecstatic that he finally got a movie, so he decided to celebrate. The teenagers who had fun at the party set the tablecloth on fire, called the police, and confiscated the on the table by the way. The angry guardian decided to cut off his entry into the entertainment industry, so when filming was about to start, an important supporting role was killed early. Brian was furious on the phone to Michael, blaming the casting director for being a pig. Could it be that among so many young boys in Hollywood and the United States, can't you find a normal person who doesn't smoke? Why find a high school student who has no sense of responsibility and self-control? It's just hopelessly stupid. Brian had obviously forgotten his approval of the casting. Yes, a real high school student to play a high school student, oh, that sounds cool. Michael Tollin is no less angry than he is, but the work has to go on, doesn't it? There's no way the 2 angry creators can get back their $15 million investment in the studio. Find another one from the Screen Actors Guild's recommendation list? Or use Lang List directly. Ron Lister is the second best actor in the audition after the addicted high school student. If the people from the Screen Actors Guild can use it, we don't have to worry so much at all. Brian had to calm his anger and think rationally. Just list, oh, I really don't want to use one to watch stupid actor going up. Hey, wait, Michael. At this time, New York street food is habitually broadcast on TV, this time it is a cheese shop, and the chef is an old man with a red nose. Hey, Michael, do you remember the hot dog chef you saw on my TV last time? Little Red Sausage. Yes, pretty Billy, Brian, why not? Maybe God has prepared it for us long ago. It's just that we didn't realize it, so there would be so much trouble. Michael Tollin knows his buddies are exhausted by the new film. Of course, let him try it. That's a lucky kid. The strangeness of the encounter is like this. Daniel, who came to Los Angeles away from New York, is still working hot dogs, fitness, and preparing a sincere self-recommendation email, but Claire's hot dog shop persevered and brought him a light. Daniel called Brian and learned that he was in Los Angeles, and directly asked Michael to arrange an interview for him. Now that he is self-willed, the responsibility of gatekeeping should be left to Michael. After asking the boss for 2 days off, Daniel tried his best to read the script outline and audition clips sent by Michael. This is a school movie he has no impression of, a group of high school football team players, and the cold-blooded coach. The war between social pressure, of course, is about the American liberalism that calls for natural and individual independence. Of course, such a movie does not have any harsh requirements for acting skills. In fact, as long as the protagonist is handsome enough and the story is told smoothly, the rest of the movie is left to fate, waiting for the audience's hormonal frequency to resonate. However, when Daniel flipped through the credits, he saw a familiar name. Paul Walker. The second protagonist, or the actor who played the first supporting role, Lance. Daniel took a deep breath. The Hollywood superstar passed away at the age of 40, and as if fate, died in a speeding car accident, which corresponds to his most famous work, The Fast and the Furious series. The seventh installment of the series, which swept 2.2 billion yuan in China, even used computer technology to complete Paul's unfinished business. And now, Paul is still a 25-year-old ordinary person whose career has not improved. Brian provided Daniel with the role of Billy Bob. He was the main guard of the Coyotes. His fat figure gave him a certain deterrent effect on the court, but the cruel pressure of the cold-blooded coach still made him exhausted. In the end, he was exhausted. In a coma, it directly led to the irreparable injury of Lance, played by Paul, which ruined his entire sports career. At the end of the film, Billy, who was despised by everyone, became the key man and finally helped the team win. This is a cliché and inspirational story. But in Daniel's view, Billy is actually the most performative character in the whole story. Whether it is Jonathan or Lance, these two have followed the expected situational changes. Jonathan went from the bench to Mr. Key, and then to get rid of the good boy of temptation led the team to victory in the end. Lance was brilliant at the beginning, then suffered a fatal setback, and finally replaced the devil coach. Yu Kanshu www.yuyuganshu.com and his partners won the victory together. These are all stereotyped characters in stereotyped stories. But Billy is different. He is inconspicuous, but he has significant physical defects, very fat, which makes him a hot spot for cold-blooded coaches and players. Later, the turning point of the story, the limit of contradictions focused on him. It was his fall that caused everything to go uncontrollable. Lance's sports career was ruined, and Jonathan began to walk on the court. In the last paragraph of the film, he has another vulgar inspirational plot. He was despised by everyone and became the key to victory. Those depressed young people should be able to get some inspiration from him. Daniel has acted in more than 10 Chinese independent films in his last life, most of which are of good quality, and the characters he plays are basically low-level and sincere characters. So, for a thoroughly experiential actor, the role of Billy is just a little bit of a pedant. But what kind of Billy is what director Blair and producer Michael needs? Daniel still needs to figure out. Billy is a part of American high school students, and he also needs to learn from Daniel himself and his classmates and friends. It's not too much to spend a day. The interview took place in the audition room of MTV Films, the main production company for the film, with Paramount involved in the production, but mainly for distribution. This is a special audition. There is no representative of the Screen Actors Guild. One is very rushed, and the other is because Daniel is not a member of the Screen Actors Guild at all. Michael Tollin and casting director Trick were present. Before the two sides could speak, there was a knock on the door between the auditions. Trick clearly understood it, and after calling in, an overweight young man came in. There is no doubt that even a cat would not be able to share this door with him. Lang. Michael looked at the person suspiciously. Michael, I told Mr. Lister. Trick motioned for Lister to sit down. Anyway, he should be given another chance, shouldn't he? Trick understood that Michael was not dissatisfied with List, but Brian didn't know what to do. But Brian is not so authoritative in the crew. As long as Michael insists, List may not have a chance. Trick couldn't bear in his heart that Brian rejected all his candidates, and found a rookie from the hot dog shop. Michael's brown eyes moved, and he glanced at Daniel, but he didn't object to Trych's presumptuous proposition. Okay, two lads, Michael crossed his hands in front of him, you must already know the story of this movie, especially Mr. List. Of course, this is nothing, if there is a chance to cooperate, there will be a lot of time to get acquainted. So, today, I want to see your understanding of the role of Billy Bob and where your performances and strengths lie. Well. Michael pondered for a while, then looked at List. Lang, you should come first. Ron List does not have much acting talent. In fact, apart from the actual experience of the rugby team guard and a fat enough figure, he is not quite competitive. But for a school movie full of young people, acting is not so important, so he became the second candidate. Lang obviously knew the story well. He was acting after Bud once again scolded him for being a stupid pig. He seemed to want to defend himself, but he took the authority of Bud, but he did not dare to say more. This is a good audition subject, but it is obvious that Lang is not a good student who is afraid of teachers. His submissiveness seems perfunctory and contrived, and he has no acting skills at all. Michael and Trick are also not surprised. Should they expect Lang's acting skills to improve by leaps and bounds these days? It would be better to believe that Daniel will be an Oscar winner seed. I think Lang is very good, at least a real high school student, and has football team experience. Trick began to lobby Michael. Trudge, let's talk about who is more appropriate after Mr. Sandler's performance, okay? Okay, but he's not obviously not fat enough, and he's too handsome. Trick murmured. Daniel had some headaches. Today, it happened unexpectedly. First, he was the only audition actor, and then there was a temporary competitor, and the casting director's attitude couldn't be more obvious. What's worse, Michael seemed to be touched. Daniel, you seem to be thinner than before, I mean that food show. Daniel had no intention of concealing, yes, I was dieting and exercising before, hoping to lose weight. Michael nodded thoughtfully, and both Trick and Lang's eyes flashed with joy. Can you do the same piece that Lang performed just now? Of course, then please cooperate. After Daniel said this, all other thoughts about casting in his mind disappeared, and he sank into the character of Billy Bob. He's fat, he's always behind, there's always ridicule, but he loves football. He's attached to the feeling of sweating and running on the field, and now, Bud, is calling him and threatening to kick him out of the Timberwolves. Daniel looked up at Michael, it was Bud in his eyes. Michael's whole body was shaken, and Daniel's look at him was like a bucket of cold water, aggrieved, indifferent, deeper unwillingness and fear, and resentment that seemed to be uncontrollable. With just one glance, Michael felt that he understood Billy. He was one of those backward students who existed in every high school. They were indifferent to all kinds of contempt. They were always afraid of losing every chance they had, and their unwillingness was still lurking in them. At the bottom of my heart, and deepest, there is an unspoken cynicism. Daniel opened his mouth and wanted to say something. He twisted his clothes in his hands and felt uneasy. His body seemed to be shaking slightly, showing that this huge body seemed vulnerable in front of Bud. His head was drooping, but his spine was still slightly erect, as if he was waiting for the verdict. "Coach," a jerky expression and tone of a high school student. Ron List just felt that Daniel was very much like one of his former classmates at the moment, fat and inferior, which was what he was like when he was not allowed to attend the Easter King's party. But in the eyes of Trick and Michael, especially Michael, it was completely different. Some people may be born to eat as an actor. Cough. Michael didn't go to see Trick again. "Long, I'm sorry for making you run again. If there is a chance next time, I hope to work with you. You are very good." Of course Lang understood what this meant. He patted Daniel on the shoulder. "Man, congratulations." Daniel turned his head sideways. "If possible, I hope I can say thank you later." "Yes, Michael hasn't said that he will be hired." "Danny," Michael is much more enthusiastic than before. "You reading www.yuyugonshu.com." Although he has always been suave, "Yes, this role is yours, if you're willing to gain some weight." "Of course. Gaining weight is nothing, for $1 million investment opportunity." "Brian, you really found a treasure this time." Michael couldn't wait to call Brian, who was far away in New York. "He's a natural actor. Although I'm glad you're satisfied with his performance, isn't that an exaggeration?" "No, it's not an exaggeration at all." Michael shook his head again and again. Of course he couldn't see over the phone. Of course, maybe these young actors are not very mature, even James, that's why I'm impressed by Daniel. But can't hide Daniel's acting talent. I can't believe he's only 19 years old and has been working in a hot dog shop." Oh, okay." Brian also became curious. "After the official shooting, let me take a good look at his genius performance. By the way, how much did you charge?" $5,000. The previous Billy Bob was at this price. James gets $300,000, Paul Walker only $100,000, and Daniel, $5,000 is a reasonable price. $10,000, Michael said. "Brian, he's definitely worth $10,000. Whether it's 10,000 or 5,000, it doesn't make much difference for a $15 million investment, but Michael is so irrational, it still surprises Brian. Well, he can't wait to see Daniel's performance too." Even though Daniel wasn't really only 19 years old, after agreeing on the price, he still felt a little erratic in his body. In his vision, he would work at a hot dog shop until he completed his fitness program, then join the Screen Actors Guild for $3,000 to get the extras they offered, crew by crew, and wait for an opportunity. Wait for a few. The character of the sentence may be a waiter, or an airport employee. No matter what, he believes that he can seize this opportunity and at least get more important roles. Then it would be even better if he could get the attention of a capable agent at this time, and he could help him get some auditions for supporting roles in TV dramas or low-budget independent films. This is also the path of most famous Hollywood actors. After all, there are very few lucky people like Leonardo DiCaprio. But this is Hollywood, and opportunities are always caught off guard. Daniel's quiet heart seems to have recovered. This is really an unparalleled and exciting place of dreams. As for how much blood and tears are dirty under the flowers of these dreams, did Daniel see less in his last life? As long as he is always open and proud, then all these things are his nourishment. "David, maybe you can see me in the cinema next year." Daniel's joy in his heart could only tell David, "It's incredible, isn't it?" David, who is far away in New York, is obviously reluctant to talk to his excited friend on the phone at this moment. "Well, Danny, let's talk about this at another time, okay?" "Oh, this with a brain." Daniel hung up the phone with a black line. But this night is destined not to be lonely. "Hey, this is Daniel Sandler." "Ron List?" "Oh, it's you, hello." Daniel blinked, somewhat inexplicably, but he still admired List's demeanor after he lost the election. Mr. List got Daniel's landline phone from Trick, but he didn't explain the original intention of the call, just rambling. made some pompous compliments about Daniel's audition for his acting skills. Then they gradually brought the topic to a wider area. Daniel looked at the time, it was 9:40. After more than 30 minutes of talking on the phone, Daniel felt a little irritated, although Lang showed a chatty inconsistency with what Brian called his stupid face. Lang seemed to think that the foreshadowing was enough, and he began to talk about a shooting in Washington. Patrol officers in Washington shot and killed a black youth after their warnings were invalidated, with widespread social repercussions and a cloud of racism looming over the DC for a time. Lang seems to be more supportive of the white police, he even said dead are criminals. Daniel was terrified at this moment. As a Chinese, a large part of my impression of the superpowers on the other side of the ocean is about various discriminatory remarks. For example, when the owner of the NBA Clippers chose the green hat, he insisted that he could not be black, for example, the CNN host's insulting remarks. He lightly brought over a small second-hand tape recorder, which was left by the former tenant of the house. It was probably a music lover, and Daniel also used it to practice his lines, as well as to be familiar with Daniel's own voice and timbre. When the spinning cassette recorded List's discriminatory remarks again, Daniel was basically able to determine List's intention. If he was not mistaken, there should also be a tape recorder in the receiver over there. As long as Daniel makes a racist remark, even if he is not well known, it is impossible for Brian and Michael to use him again, and it is impossible for anyone to allow a ticking time bomb in their movie, even if Brian or Michael himself is not even a racist. For the film industry, it doesn't matter who you are at all, you can be a dirty talker, a drug addict, or even a mafia believer, but in public, you have to be clean and sincere, otherwise your acting career won't even work. If it doesn't stop immediately, it's hard to get any better. Lang, it's very late. I still need to go to the cruise training tomorrow. Let's talk about it here. The voice on the other end of the phone was obviously a little anxious, but he said good night politely. Daniel didn't directly debunk his plan. A conspiracy that was on the surface was no longer lethal. What's more, Daniel glanced at his tape recorder and had the handle in his hand. List would never be able to talk about it for him. Threat. That being the case, why not stay in the dark and wait quietly for things to develop? When Daniel was lying on the bed, he suddenly remembered the high school student who lost his role because of smoking cigarettes and lighting the party scene. If he hadn't killed him out of thin air, this role would have been in List's pocket long ago. This is really shocking. Just a supporting role, Daniel has already seen the cruelty and methods of Hollywood, and it is so fast and so straightforward. If Ron List is still a rookie, doing it too eagerly and rough, Daniel really cannot guarantee that he will not fall into the trap. Did James and Paul Walker have the same experience? One is a popular male star in Colombia, and the other is a fresh meat from Universal Pictures. Presumably the team behind them will help them stop these evil spirits. When will there be a strong economic man? Daniel, who has been running the single gang for 2 lifetimes, fell into a deep sleep with this idea in mind. Daniel doesn't have any research on American law and Hollywood contracts, but he also doesn't have anyone to turn to. Luckily, Brian and Michael don't seem like people who want to play him a small role. After signing the contract with trepidation, Daniel officially entered the press hooting training. As for the $10,000 check, it will not arrive until the film is completed. The film is named Campus Blues, and the background is a football game. Several main actors are either players or coaches, and even the women are cheerleaders for the team. Ali Larter, the cheerleader in the movie, is also the girlfriend of Lance, the best quarterback in the state. UU reading www.uuganshu.com. Of course, after Jonathan turned out, she ditched Lance, whose athletic career was scrapped. This is really not a likable character. In addition to Ali Larter, another actress, Amy Smart, plays Lance's sister, Jonathan's real girlfriend. Look at how the network is. In reality, Ellie and Amy are model partners who work together. It is always easy to get acquainted with young people when they meet each other. Except for James, who gained considerable popularity with the popular TV series Age of Love, which is known as the textbook for American teenage growth. Everyone is still in the stage of nothing. And Daniel, who is a little fat and the youngest, will inevitably become the object of everyone's care. After all, the role of the movie has been set, and the competition with each other is not fierce. Daniel was deeply impressed by Paul Walker. The future superstar's appearance is indeed sunny and positive, which makes people feel close. Ali needs to train for cheerleading dancing, the other boys need to be like the main players of a first-class football team, and thankfully almost everyone has thrown a football in high school. I also joined a team at the beginning, and I also happened to be a guard. As for James and Paul, they are the most important figures in the team. Brian is not surprised. He took this into consideration when he was casting, and now he is just doing some training. For Daniel, though, there was one more important thing. That is to gain weight. The process of gaining weight is very difficult, especially for Daniel, who has a very light and restrained diet, rich syrup donuts, hot cream, butter bread, etc., and eating at least 5 meals a day. These are too challenging for his body. The only good thing is that these are paid for by the crew. Daniel gained weight at a speed visible to the naked eye, his deep facial features were crowded together, and the fat on his stomach and thighs swayed. A full 43 pounds. A week after James and Paul started filming, Daniel, who had gained enough weight, started shooting his first Hollywood movie. After 70 or 80 years of development, Hollywood movies have become a professional industrial type. Various types of work on the set perform their duties, just like a well-functioning machine. The locomotive is a director, a producer, an investor, and of course, sometimes a big-name actor, but obviously there is no such big name in School Blues. But everything is not necessarily the same. People are always good at following the trend, and Hollywood is no exception. If it is James Cameron or Steven Spielberg, they don't have to care too much about ordinary producers, and the crew will naturally become director-centered. So on the flip side of a coin, if the director is not so famous or has a thin resume, the producers and investors may also overwhelm and point fingers. All in all, whoever makes money is the boss. The reason why Cameron can break investment records again and again is simply because he breaks box office records again and again, and the two are always closely related. Daniel's first scene was the party scene. The Timberwolves guys won a game, Jonathan was still on the bench, Lance was still brilliant, and Billy Bob, under the brilliance of victory, also temporarily got rid of the negativity caused by excessive obesity. Billy, who had drunk several beers, sat on a chair that was a little small for him. He seemed to twist his body unconsciously to adjust his huge hips, and his eyebrows were slightly wrinkled, but his eyes were still focused to the face of the beautiful girl opposite. They were playing the childish game of tossing a coin. Brian behind the monitor straightened up. Interesting. Michael looked at Daniel in the camera with interest. Oh, Brian, don't be too harsh. Billy drank a lot, but beer was not so easy to make people drunk, but he still slowly revealed some different emotions when he looked at the girl, which belonged to men. Tess felt a touch of enthusiasm, and the look of the fat boy opposite her almost made her unable to tell if she was really interested in her. Of course, she was not a good person. As early as the age of 14, she was given to the forward of the high school basketball team. He's so strong, healthy, and full of energy, especially the muscles in his hips, that's a wonderful. And the fat man in front of her, whether true or not, made her a little sick. However, it took a lot of work for her to get this extra job with lines, but she couldn't screw it up. Perfect. Brian saw Tess involuntarily showing disgust, but he still insisted on playing games with Daniel. This girl is not bad. Playing with true character, Michael shrugged, if you were her, you would have this kind of reaction when faced with the eyes of a dead fat man. Daniel's first day of shooting went very smoothly, and Brian even complimented him. This makes Daniel somewhat novel. You must know that when he was still in China, whether he was a director or a colleague, there was very little time to evaluate his acting skills. The budget constraints made the whole shooting cycle very tight, but young people always have endless energy. After more than a week of shooting, the stars of the next play are still gathered in Paul Walker's hotel room to watch the New York Giants and the Philadelphia Eagles. Rugby game. Ellie Larder just had a new agent, and she has several job assignments in addition to the film. Undoubtedly, this 14-year-old Wren who has been in the arena as a model is different from her fellow New Jersey fellows, and she is not the same as the feisty cheerleader she played in the movie. As far as Daniel knows, she is very hardworking, and she is meticulous in honing her acting skills. And like Daniel, she doesn't seem to be interested in lively parties. This is a girl who knows what she needs and when she should do things. Now is not the time to party, is it? Hey, Daniel, you did a great job. Ellie and Daniel are sitting on the sofa while the others gather on the bed. I've been watching your performances these days. It's amazing. How can you act so natural, real, and infectious? If you really understand the character and act without distractions, you'll do well, too. Daniel frowned and drank a Coke. He hoped for a glass of water, but James would only give Coke, of course. If he wants beer, he can, of course. This is a bit false. Understanding a character requires many conditions, such as sufficient experience, or the accumulation of enough films, books, etc., and even talent, all of which can help you go to understand your character. Reading www.yuyugonshu.com. To achieve this step, you have to learn to eliminate distractions, devote yourself to your character, pick up girls, drink, smoke, etc. with him. Son, you're no longer you, it's him, Billy Bob, or Daisy. Ellie was thoughtful, and Daniel's experiential remarks gave her some inspiration. She was facing a breakthrough scene. She needed to seduce Jonathan, played by James, in a cream three-point style. Of course, she also had such a beautiful scene. It's not that she can't act, it's just that she is somewhat cramped, and she doesn't want to leave such a performance. Daniel didn't bother her and turned around to watch TV. Oh, my God! Paul, what are you doing? Paul Walker's handsome face almost reached his nose. Listen to Dr. Daniel's acting class, yes. Daniel couldn't help rolling his eyes. James and Amy, who were attracted, also began to coax. Ellie had to help Daniel. I'm just discussing the plot with Daniel. Oh, James is really a bad person. His eyes shot back and forth on Daniel and Ellie. Ellie, so you like this one? Too greasy will make you fat. This is not the 10th time he made fun of Daniel's fat. Okay, James, those innocent girls outside definitely don't know your true face. Daniel stood up and looked at the time. It's too late, James. I hope you don't dream of my good figure and good dreams at night. The shooting of Campus Blues continued smoothly, and everyone in the crew was in a good mood. Daniel has more scenes than he imagined, and although he takes up a large part of the time as a background board and a glimpse, no matter what, there will be no shortage of pictures belonging to him in this movie. The role of Billy Bob also has several important plots in the movie, such as this one that is currently being filmed. In Coach Bud's office, Billy came by appointment. The fat figure could hardly conceal his inner uneasiness. The frequency of his blinking increased significantly, which almost no one noticed, but with his facial expressions and some other small movements, an uneasy young man immediately came to life. The director and star were watching, and they watched more intuitively how the calm and indifferent Daniel turned into Billy Bob in 1 second. John Voight, aka Coach Bud Gilmer, sits behind his desk. He's an old showman, 3-time Academy Award nominee, and he actually took home a Best Actor trophy. Although in such a movie, he has put away the momentum of the Oscar winner, so that the young people in front of him don't have too much pressure. But there is a huge gap in performance technology, and there are still situations where there are pressure scenes in many scenes, whether it is James or Paul. John inadvertently glanced at Daniel's trousers with his left leg rolled up, and ran over as if he had no time to tidy it up. Perfect details. No, don't sit down, you'll get out of here soon. Bud indifferently stopped Billy from taking his seat. Billy was even more cramped, but he didn't seem to show enough anger, but even such a fat chest had a bigger ups and downs, indicating the master's extraordinary mood. He was speechless, his cheekbones were slightly raised, which was a sign that he wanted to pull out a smile but was interrupted forcibly. The figure is extremely uncoordinated, in short, the whole body is full of uncomfortable aura. On one side are the domineering and ruthless coach, and on the other side are the trembling players. In such a natural picture, the two characters are full and three-dimensional. The three-dimensional image composed of expressions, shapes, various detailed movements, and even lines is displayed on the monitor. Come alive! O'Brien let out a sigh. John was obviously aware of the difference in acting with Daniel. Similarly, Daniel also felt a touch of the Oscar-winning actor's style, with a look and a micro-movement, each of which was meaningful. Acting is a systematic job, using various means to enrich a character and let him show his emotions in front of the audience, which requires actors to have strong understanding and creativity. The excitement level of John and Daniel has risen, which is almost visible on the set, and the cast and crew felt the difference immediately. The tension in the air is directly reflected in the touch of the skin, which is tight and tactile. Coach, listen, Billy Bob, you're fat and slow and so stupid, I don't understand why you don't get out of my team. I will change. Billy was interrupted again. No, I don't want to listen to your nonsense. I've heard enough. I hope you can repay me with your performance in the game, okay? Now, you can get out. Billy seemed to want to say something, but under Bud's eyes, he didn't say anything. He just left his office with his head down, and he didn't even forget to carefully close the door for him. Bud took control of the rhythm, and Billy was like a doll in front of him. But John did not master the rhythm with Daniel. This is an indescribable thing. When playing with James, he led James to complete the work according to the script without any doubt. But just now, he lost this firmness, and the script disappeared in his heart. Although his character is strong and the opponent is cowardly, he is just a character in this scene at the moment, and the opponent is a completely independent individual. Billy's reaction is no longer what he thinks, and Billy is no longer the cardboard man he envisioned to follow his character. His aura couldn't erode Daniel. What an astonishing reality! Okay. Brian's excited voice sounded, breaking the atmosphere of the scene. For Daniel, Brian couldn't be more satisfied, even though he was also NG. Sometimes Brian was also annoyed by the unfamiliarity of some daily habits. But most of the time, Brian was very satisfied with Daniel's performance. Although this is just a campus inspirational movie, since he has invited an Oscar winner like John, it shows that he still has a little ambition for acting. Fantastic! Paul gave Daniel a fist, but sank deep into his flesh. How's the elasticity? It's great too. The two laughed together. James and Amy went to prepare their scene. Paul was called over by Brian, and Ellie came over. She showed her admiration almost without concealment. It's hard to believe that it's just your first time making a movie. Talent is so unreasonable. What can Daniel say? He is indeed talented, but what is more important is the constant pondering over the characters and the constant in-depth study of his acting skills in the past 10 years or so in the last life. It can only be said that everything is due to God's manipulation. Reading www.yuyugonshu.com. Some people need to keep working hard and putting in constant effort to get a little bit of achievement, but talented people like you can easily get opportunities and success. Think about it. Leonardo is only 25 years old, he already has Oscar and Golden Globe nominations, as well as a Berlin actor, and even masterpieces such as Titanic belong to him. Ellie was a little excited, but not gaff. Sometimes, I really feel like working harder. It's useless. Oh, no, this I just complained, if I don't work hard, what else can I expect? Now the only thing I can hope for is that diligence can move even God. Daniel spread his hands. I really don't know what to say, it's just my first role and I don't know anything about the future. But, I think hard work is essential, regardless of talent. Also, even Leonardo, there is not necessarily no time for disappointment. Daniel knows that on the Chinese internet in the future, Leonardo, Oscar, Haruki Murakami, and Nobel will all be listed as the four most tragic things: nomination, nomination, popular, popular, but they just can't get it. This may not have nothing to do with outstanding talent. If the judges can't see enough breakthroughs, it is difficult to be willing to give you the trophy. If a person with mediocre talent performs almost the same as Leonardo, the Oscar must belong to another people. Of course, Leonardo has gotten too much, and this shortcoming is not unacceptable. I hope the book friends who see it can support the collection and recommendation. Thank you. Daniel is getting better and better. After getting used to the way of shooting Hollywood movies, he has a senior like Jon Voight as his opponent. His performance is gradually integrated with Hollywood, and his overly dignified and inherent performance characteristics are not to be eaten in Hollywood. But there are always more welcome actors who have characteristics and dare to show. Danny, come to dinner with me, someone will treat you. James has a lot of friends in California. After the scene is a little more relaxed, there will inevitably be a dinner party. Brian doesn't mind. During the 2-month shooting period, these young stars cannot be asked to be ascetic. Oh, that's not good, Danny has to help me with the lines. Ellie hurried over and dragged Daniel's shoulders. Sorry, gentlemen and ladies, Daniel has his own dinner today. Daniel pulled his hand out of Ellie's chest with difficulty. Ma'am, your underwear is too hard and it's not good for your health. In the wild laughter of James and Paul, Daniel had to run away quickly. Most of the filming has been completed, especially the scenes of Daniel and Ellie are almost over. There is some affection between the young people. Dr. Daniel sometimes gave acting classes, Ellie was the most loyal student, and Paul was often involved. Tonight was a dinner with producer Michael Tollin. Daniel was a little surprised. Compared to Brian, Michael, who worked in MTV movies, was more professional, respected the director more in filming, and usually had less contact with actors. But Michael also praised his performance more than once. Maybe a new performance opportunity? Daniel's optimistic conjecture. But Michael isn't a very well-known producer, and Daniel doesn't know what works he's had, so there's no way to guess what the opportunities might be. The dinner was at a restaurant not far from the set, which specializes in Texas steaks and salads. When Daniel was surprised, there was another lady present, and she was quite young. Daniel, this way. Michael also saw him and beckoned him over. Hey, Michael, good evening. Daniel took a seat across from them, and this lady. Melissa Lane. Hi, nice to meet you. Daniel showed his usual grace, which, of course, sometimes means alienation, and the subtext is let's all be quiet beauties. Michael suddenly laughed. How about it, isn't it different from the set? Yes, it's completely different. Melissa also smiled. Mr. Daniel Sandler, I think I should introduce myself first. Melissa Lane, currently an assistant agent of Utah Agency. The boss is Tracy Jacobs. If you don't know, then oh, no, I think I know something. Tracy Jacobs? Johnny Depp. Johnny is one of the most famous male stars in Hollywood in the 21st century. Daniel knows a little about him. Although he has not yet been able to appear in the Pirates of the Caribbean series, he is already an Alavel artist. Melissa smiled happily. Yes, Tracy is Johnny's only big agent. Of course, Tracy has other clients, such as Harris Ford, Gwyneth Paltrow, etc. Wait. Gwyneth. Daniel also had an impression of this name. It seemed that in one inventory, an actress with bad luck was still an actress with poor career. The next Oscar favorite is in a dilemma. She once rejected the role of Rose in Titanic. After the Titanic swept this year's Oscars and became the #1 box office in film history, she should be somewhat got hurt. This is also the reason why she bid farewell to her former agent and switched to Tracy. I don't know if it's her luck, or Tracy is really extraordinary. Gwyneth's new work Shakespeare in Love is being released, and the momentum shows that she has become a popular candidate for the next Oscar. Of course, this film has also been controversial because of the Oscars. It sounds exciting, Daniel's mind was spinning rapidly. He could remember a lot of successful movies, but not necessarily so many who had the right opportunity. Among them, the hero in the Pirates of the Caribbean series Elle Turner happens to be one of them. Alavel production, series, big box office. Although there are no awards, people can't be too greedy, right? If you can catch up with Tracy, the chances seem to be better. 1999 is quickly approaching, and Daniel remembers that the first Pirates of the Caribbean movie seemed to have been released in 2003, suggesting that the project had been in motion since at least 2000 or 2001. Daniel is also in a hurry sometimes. Some opportunities he can remember are right in front of him, but no one will just give a rookie a chance. Sometimes he also thinks he is quite ridiculous. It seems that after he arrived in the United States, he also began to be bewitched by the heroism of the United States. He became a much anticipated superstar, and the temptation for him became quite powerful. But he also has no intention of controlling himself. Since it is a new beginning, then everything can do as he pleases. Melissa, I hope I'm not being selfish, Daniel tried to widen his eyes buried in the fat. This amused Melissa. I don't think you have. Yes, I intend to recommend you to Tracy. Melissa is also an assistant agent, which means she's not eligible to sign clients independently, but according to the rules, she can refer people to Tracy, and if approved, Tracy will sign the actor and then put his agent on things entrusted to Melissa. As for the brokerage, of course, Tracy is the big one, and Melissa takes about 1/3 of the total. Of course, this is already high. If Melissa is just acting as an artist signed by Tracy herself, she can only get a fixed salary based on the coffee position, and is not eligible to participate in the draw. That's pretty much a senior assistant. Reading www.yuyugonshu.com. That's really my honor. Daniel didn't try to talk about conditions. First, he had to satisfy Tracy, and then he could talk about other things. Secondly, under the supervision of the Actors Guild, such a large brokerage company is unlikely to give him a blood-sweat contract. Because they also know that such treaties are often not backed by law. Because the two sides quickly reached an agreement, the meal was fairly easy. Michael and Melissa talked about some things in the circle, and Daniel listened with an ear. I really don't know how to thank you, Michael. Daniel watched Melissa leave and turned to Michael. He really didn't expect Michael to help him. No, Michael waved his hand. Melissa decided after seeing your performance. You earned it yourself. But, Danny, I have to be honest with you, even though Melissa my father is my best friend, but your future is also very important. Yuta is not the best choice for Hollywood, CAA, you know? There is the king of Hollywood brokers, there are more opportunities, and the brokers are more professional, and, I also know some CAA staff, if you will thank you, Michael, I understand this. Daniel sincerely listened to Michael's kindness, but Tracy is also a good choice, and the CAA family has a big business, and it's not easy for a newcomer to get ahead. God knows I'm just watching Pirates of the Caribbean for the sake of it. Daniel thought to himself. But in the eyes of Michael Tollin, this is a child who was stunned by chance. Of course, Tracy is also very good indeed. Starting tomorrow, the main actors will be finished one after another. Daniel had 2 days left, and when he passed the actor's trailer, Ellie was attentively looking at the script, which was supposed to be her last scene in the movie. She is alone, and Ellie, who is immersed in character speculation, has no idea about Daniel. Until Amy rushed over excitedly. She just raised her head, surprised, and gave Daniel a shy smile. Excellent. Ellie's cheeks were slightly red. Thank you, I just want to perform better. None of the 5 young people had the experience of shooting tens of millions of films before, so at Ellie's official farewell lunch banquet, Amy claimed that she had been raped again and was determined to remember this moment forever. 2 days later, Brian gave Daniel his oversized Timberwolves jersey as a souvenir. Daniel has quit his job in the hot dog shop, but the boss didn't give him any scorn. It is always a blessing for young people who come to Los Angeles to find a dream. Melissa has been in frequent contact with him recently. According to her words, Daniel, although your acting talent is amazing, the success of an actor or star is also closely related to his appearance and figure. In other words, Melissa hopes that he will meet with Tracy after losing weight. As an assistant agent, she certainly hopes that the person she likes can be appreciated by Tracy, and it is not only about her vision, but also about the directness. Benefit. But in the previous communication, Tracy had a lot of doubts about Daniel's physical condition. Melissa, I don't doubt your vision. He may have talent in acting, but how important is appearance to young people, I don't need to tell you more. Daniel wasn't always this fat, he just gained weight for the role. After filming, he will lose weight very quickly, Tracy. Tracy glanced at Daniel's photo and rendition, which Brian gave Melissa extrajudicially. Okay, Melissa, let's talk about it when he loses weight. As long as he is not so sorry to the American people, I promise to sign him and give it to you. Melissa has a special position in Tracy's team, which has a lot to do with her father. Drake Lane is a well-known Hollywood film editor who has won 2 Oscars for Best Picture Editing. There are many friends inside. Tracy's important long-term client, Harris Ford, the young action star, has a strong relationship with Drake. After Campus Blues ended, Daniel devoted himself to the inhumane weight loss. Fortunately, this body's talent is not bad. At first, he gained 43 pounds in a short period of time. Now, in less than a month, Daniel's weight has lost. At 177 pounds. Perhaps it was the Oriental blood in his body, but Daniel's muscles were smooth but not exaggerated. The deltoid muscles on his shoulders went down, and his chest and abdominal muscles were like water waves. With a height of nearly 5.6 meters, light wheat-colored skin, and this body of muscles, he looks like a fine china in the halo of the gym. Tomorrow is going to Beverly to meet Tracy, which is the last day of his intensive fitness training. His fitness trainer, Sith, is not well known in Los Angeles, and is of course very cheap, and he has to pay the bills himself. Daniel has thousands of dollars in savings, plus a $10,000 check from School Blues, that's all he has, and he'll have to hold out until the next time he gets paid for his job. So expensive personal trainer services, protein supplements, etc. are all out of his reach. Unbelievable, people won't believe that you are the same person as Daniel a month ago. Sith looked at Daniel in the mirror almost fascinated, with deep dark blue eyes, delicate and extremely with a recognizable face, a charming figure, and an enviable height. Danny, you are really God's darling. Sith's eyes revealed his heart, but Daniel had already declared his preference. Oscar is approaching, and the whole Beverly is full of tension and chaos. Shakespeare in Love is in full swing, making people tired, but 13 nominations make it impossible to ignore. Gwyneth is already the most popular candidate, and her agent Tracy is of course very busy. The time to see Daniel was the result of Melissa's perseverance. Tracy, you have to meet Daniel, God, you will be shocked. Melissa still has no way to forget the shock when she saw Daniel again after a month. She has almost forgotten all the etiquette that a well-educated girl should follow, and she only cares about seeking like God. My God, my God, my God, who are you? Are you Daniel? Daniel Sandler. Despite the huge changes, it can still be seen that they are the same person. Besides, it is not uncommon for a fat man to become completely different after losing weight. You must know that Daniel used to be a beautiful fat man, but he was ruined by Brian, obese high school student. He had no choice but to watch Melissa slowly calm down with a smile on her face, and then her eyes brightened like light bulbs. Tracy should have a look, her eyes will fall out. Oh, my God, I'm lucky this time. The last sentence was obviously to himself, but Daniel heard it anyway. Daniel arrived at Utah's Los Angeles office in Beverly Hills at 10 o'clock in the morning. You only have 30 minutes, sir. Miss Heidegger, Tracy's assistant, said while looking down at the calendar in her hand. Daniel looked at Melissa who was following, and repeated, "You only have 30 minutes." The handsome guy's jokes can always amuse the beauty. Melissa smiled and gave him a roll of eyes. "Hyde, I'll arrange it, you can do it." Heidegger then raised his head. "Okay, Mary, but don't overtime, or it will be troublesome. You know, Tracy has been too busy lately." As Tracy's assistant, Heidegger had seen too many handsome men and women in Hollywood, but Daniel's face still caught her eye. "Melissa, you found a good one," Hyde said in a low voice, passing by Melissa when he left. Melissa was quite complacent and knocked on Tracy's door triumphantly. "Tracy, I'm Melissa. Come in, did you bring your little Daniel?" Melissa stepped aside to reveal Daniel. Dang 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 dang. Daniel and Tracy's first meeting took place in Tracy's small but well-organized office in the rumbling prelude to Oscar, in the rare warm winter sun in Beverly. Tracy is a meticulously dressed middle-aged woman who looks shrewd and capable, with short brown hair just covering her ears, wearing a pair of tortoiseshell frame myopia glasses, her eyes full of exploration behind the lenses, and a platinum necklace around her neck. There seemed to be something hanging in front, but hid in the middle of the twin peaks hidden by the grey professional suit. Is a very attractive woman. "Hello, Tracy, I'm Daniel Sandler." Daniel approached her desk with a decent smile and held out his hand. Tracy's good professional habits made her reach out and hold it subconsciously, and then she suddenly came back to her senses in Daniel's smile. When there is too much difference between what you see and what you think, people will inevitably be caught off guard. "Oh, I was really surprised, Melissa." "Hello, Daniel." Melissa happily poured coffee for both of them. Tracy took her seat again. She flipped through Daniel's profile for the first time. There were stills from Campus Blues, as well as previous life photos. If the same face could still be seen in the life photos, then the stills would be totally two people. For a while, no one spoke. Tracy had a headache. She wasn't prepared enough before. If Daniel is still what she imagined, for Melissa's sake, just give him a normal contract. But now, everything is different. As a senior star agent, she has also seen Daniel's performance videos, and with the appearance of the condition, she has stronger confidence in this young man's star career. "Then you have to be careful. Hyde, come in." Tracy showed an apologetic smile, and Heidegger quickly pushed the door in. "Sorry for me and Laurel, I have other arrangements now until 2 o'clock in the afternoon." "Okay, I see, do you have any other orders?" "Bring me to the door, thank you." Tracy turned back. "Daniel, Melissa got some of your clips in School Blues, and she did a really good job, and she didn't show weakness even against an Oscar winner like John, but you have to understand, in Hollywood, acting alone isn't enough." Before today Tracy waved her right hand randomly in the air. "I mean before I saw you, your appearance made me basically give up hope for you, this is the truth, not just because of your fatness, but because of your weight. I don't see his yearning and madness to become a superstar in a fat young man. If you are crazy enough, you should understand that you need to strictly manage your body." Around Beverly Hills, how many arms in Los Angeles the teenagers who dream of stars, each of them understands their dreams and works hard for them, and you, the original you, are not among them. You may not be able to control yourself at all, you will eat high-calorie food after 9 o'clock every day, such a person is impossible to succeed. Daniel listened quietly, nodding from time to time to show his approval. There are so many people in the United States, and there are not a few people with acting talent, but not all those who can become Hollywood stars are talented. At least the star's position and salary are not arranged according to talent. What is more important is self-management. A star, especially Hollywood stars, you need to pay a lot on the road to fame, you know what I mean. Tracy is seldom so trusting with a young man. Sometimes these young people with superior conditions need to be accommodated to their fragile hearts, but through Daniel's eyes, she determines that this is a mature young man, even though he is only 10 years old. 8, or 19. Daniel picked up the coffee and held it in his hand. If you could be more specific, I would be more grateful to you. Okay, Tracy glanced at Melissa. Mary, sorry, can you go out first? Melissa is not dissatisfied, this is the rule of the industry, and it is even an honor in a sense. As an assistant agent, the more people she discovers are valued, the more she has a say in the big agent. To a certain extent, she can become the exclusive agent of an level celebrity, expand her network through constant contact with the outside world, and finally become a big agent. This is their trajectory. Winking at Daniel, Melissa left and returned to her office. Her job was to do the day-to-day affairs of Tracy's clients. She was invited by Michael to see the new actors. At best, she was a deputy. There were only 2 people left in the office. Daniel, you give me a sense of maturity beyond my age, so I will tell you all I can. This is my working principle. I don't want if there is a chance to cooperate, there will be miscommunication between us. There are contradictions. Yes, I understand. The big Hollywood stars you see, at least they are still active, almost all of them, this is not an exaggeration, almost all of them are completely different from what they appear to be, or conceal, or deceive, or do anything to succeed, or low quality, a racist. No matter how glamorous they are in public, they're the same behind. You know, if you're going to be a Hollywood star, it means you're going to be one of them too, for life and false companionship. Daniel was silent for a while, and finally gave up covering up his soul. I'm not surprised, and I don't feel disgusted. Very good, at least you don't have to feel ashamed of yourself. The above is the first point, which means that you can be healthy. Of course, it seems that you can work hard to climb up in this circle in a healthy way, without worrying about self-destruction. In addition, there is a second point, the agent. What is the definition of an agent? Although I don't want to say it, but the fact is that, whether it is you or Johnny Depp, Hollywood stars are a kind of commodity in a sense, and the agent is to decide how to build, promote, the person who sells this product. In this process, the broker will manage you in all aspects, from what you eat and what to wear, as big as you get married and have children. You have to make sure that you can accept this kind of management. But the returns are also very impressive. Reading www.yuyuganshu.com. The average annual income of Beverly is no more than $60,000, but a level star, the annual income is in millions. As for higher level people, such as John in Nepal, private islands, yachts, luxury parties, everything you can think of can be a dream come true. Tracy is like Satan, her words are full of darkness and temptation. If Daniel was just a teenager, he might be dazedly terrified or intoxicated. But now Daniel is mature and rational. Tracy is not wrong. Hollywood is fair in a sense, paying and getting rewarded, no matter whether this kind of transaction follows universal values and ethics, but at least it is to follow the rules of the scale, and the weights are equal on both sides. But it would be an exaggeration to say that entering Hollywood is like depravity. You still have a lot of choices, it just depends on what everyone wants to get. Tracy, I think I get it, Daniel said. I want to be successful in Hollywood. I don't know if it's money or fame, but that doesn't matter. I understand what I need to do. Isn't it? I'll do whatever you want. Of course, there are times when I'd like to express my opinion, but I'm not going to stick to it. We will have a solution, because our goals are the same, right? Tracy was non-committal. She had never stepped into that environment and would never be able to feel it personally. But at least they now have a consensus. If you have no doubts, I can draft the contract right away. Of course. I'm asking for collections and recommendations. The book signing has already been. Daniel and Tracy had lunch together. Yuta is still a junior among several Hollywood agencies. It was established in 1991. Compared with CAA in 1975 and WME earlier, it is still a child. Even though this kid has just dug the corner of the CAA recently, it still looks too skinny. Because of its small size, news spreads very quickly, and the gossip about Tracy having lunch with a super handsome guy is well known for half a day. Of course, Melissa is also very popular there, but she doesn't talk too much. Daniel returned to the rental house a little tired. Recently, there have been more opportunities for his neighbors to meet with him. Every now and then, he can see that blonde girl from Chicago, who is slender and slender. If it were another time, Daniel would not mind a beautiful encounter. He is not a lover himself, and he has never been in love or married in 2 lifetimes. But Tracy has just advised him not to be too promiscuous, and he's been pretty tired lately. So, beautiful girl, go to your bald producer, he has a character there, and a little matchstick. Daniel thought badly. During this period of time, he was simply overwhelmed and dazzled. First, there was a character who fell from the sky, then a big agent with a big star and a brokerage contract. He has to wonder if the world is plotting against him. But it is also true that he was physically and mentally exhausted. Daniel took off his clothes and went into the bathroom, where the hot steam enveloped his body. Bell, bell, bell. The shabby old telephone rang unwillingly. Daniel had to come out to answer the phone wrapped in a bath towel. Before his hair was dried, the water dripped down his smooth muscles. This is Daniel. Of course I know it's you, Mr. whose heart was eaten by dogs. Daniel was taken aback for a moment, but a burst of joy soon emerged. Mark, why did you call me? Do I expect you to call me? Mark was obviously very angry. Daniel was lying comfortably on the sofa. Okay, it's my fault, I just thought it would be better for you to see me in the cinema, wouldn't that be cool? Mark Vaughn is a friend of Daniel and David, a middle school and elementary school classmate. Only later, Mark's father speculated in the stock market and made a lot of money, and the family moved to Seattle to live with his grandfather. Although the development of the two sides was completely different, Mark was admitted to Stanford University and Daniel and David could only have a meal and clothing in a hot dog shop, but the feelings of youth did not dissipate. Obviously, this time Mark learned about Daniel's movements from David. Danny, can you come to see me at Stanford? Mark just pretended to be angry. After Daniel begged for mercy, he naturally let him go. We haven't seen each other for 2 years. Oh, Mark, what a coincidence, I was just about to sign an agent, Johnny Depp, you know? The same agent as him. It's so frustrating, Mark said in a low voice, I'm busy developing a software too, or I'd be in LA. Oh, by the way, who did you just say? Johnny? Sorry, I didn't listen. Yes. But it sounds like a big star. Daniel rubbed his forehead and said to a computer guy about Hollywood stars is a bit unreliable. The two had to regretfully postpone the meeting, but they both described their work to each other with great interest. It sounded that they were both very interested in their brother's career. But, God knows what HTML is and what is XML, Daniel just hummed and responded to Mark who was in high spirits. But when he talked about the story in Universal City, Mark also seemed a little absent-minded. Well, before the early morning came, the two of them ended the call satisfactorily. However, this was not Daniel's last phone call this evening. Ali Larder called Daniel after the clock struck 12. When Daniel picked up, the opposite was Ellie's cry. His first reaction was not that Ellie was stimulated, and he thought that he had suffered a ghost cry in the middle of the night. Ellie? Ellie? Are you okay? Daniel tried his best to make his voice softer and more careful. On the phone, she cried intermittently for 20 minutes. Ellie, where are you? Do you need to come out for a drink? Daniel didn't speak again until Ellie's voice stopped. Daniel, Ellie's tone was full of weakness, I just got the heroine of a new movie. Daniel was stunned, and he responded hesitantly, isn't this good news? But it's what I got for that producer, he's older than my dad, it's disgusting. But the agent told me that if I say no, there's no way I'll get the chance. A lot of girls lined up to get into his bed. Oh, it's incredible, my grandmother's granddaughter actually used to accompany people to bed in exchange for her role, God, if she knew, she would have jumped out of the cemetery. Ellie started crying again. Daniel didn't know how to comfort her. Today, he just heard clearly about Black Hollywood from Tracy, but after all, it is not his personal experience, and he has not experienced it yet. But Ellie's phone call completely ruined the good mood of Mark's call. This hard-working, hopeful young girl finally took this step. So many people in Hollywood are taking this road, so that it doesn't even have to be covered up. If a female star enters the director's or producer's house, isn't it normal? Ellie choked about her mental journey. When the agent told her, how angry she was and how incredible she felt, but when she saw with her own eyes that some poor female stars were trying to propose a pillow seat, she was confused. Could it be that these people have no self-love, willing to accompany those bald men who are older than their father for a role? Her agent talked to her, and the content was almost the same as what Tracy said. But say this to girls, be very specific, because there are so many examples. For example, a certain female star once accompanied almost the entire crew in order to add drama and make herself more outstanding. Every Hollywood rookie has this lesson. It's just that Tracy taught it early, and Ellie's agent waited until the end to tell her about it. Ellie, I really don't know how to tell you. The phone fell silent, and Daniel knew he had to speak, or he might lose this friend, but, it's best not to regret it, and try not to go suspect. You know what I mean? No matter what you do, even if it is murder and arson, you have moral and legal things to bear, but what you do is what you do, you can't go back, then stop spending extra unnecessary emotions on it. Ellie, everyone is entitled to choose their own path, you just exchange what you have for what you want, as long as you think it's worth it, even if you don't think it's worth it but you've done it, then don't torture yourself for this. Girl, you just want to be more successful. Daniel said at the end, his tone was like that of a pastor. He hoped to save Ellie from her own confusion, and hoped that he could be rescued. The phone was still silent. If it wasn't for the choking sound, he would have wondered if Ellie was asleep. Thank you, Danny, thank you. Daniel breathed a sigh of relief. Listen, Ellie, go get a good night's sleep, and then take good care of each role, you will succeed. When Daniel lay down on the bed again, the exhaustion in his heart could no longer be added. Mark's enthusiasm for those cold computer terms made him more and more envious. He even had the slightest doubt whether he was right to reselect his career. But soon this sign was strangled by him. Yes, don't doubt yourself, don't doubt your choices. Keep moving forward, only keep moving forward. Daniel took a deep breath and buried his head in the big pillow. And the phone rang again.